tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Trust No One, Season 7 here of Dig on the USA Network. Hi, I'm Mindy Thomas. You can totally tweet me at Mindy Charlotte and keep them coming. I'm going to read some of the tweets tonight in a later segment. Also, a shout out to our wonderful producer Josh here in studio with us. And again, wow. Season shocker last week, and tonight Emma and Peter are off chasing the clues. They are trying to hammer out some things as to where Emma went, why she was there. So Peter and Detective Goen, they go off into that area together. Of course, Peter says, I don't trust it at all. Again, trust no one, because as soon as you get to know them in this show, they become someone else. So it's very elusive. And I would like to know how you thought tonight has unfolded after Emma is literally back in the picture. Alison Sudol, wonderful actress. And I'm not trusting her either. Let me just say that off the cuff. I am not feeling an earned trust by her after disappearing. I think it was because some of the glass and some of the crime scene didn't really look completely genuine to me. It looked like something she could have set up herself, and the makeup and the pictures, it seemed sort of small, a little contrived, if you will. So, and then the window that she crawled out of and escaped from. We do not know who was keeping her there. I don't believe. Now, we do know Ellie was in the prison, and Detective Goen at the beginning of the show tonight, he says, keep him on suicide watch, because he knows that he's going to try and out himself at some point, because this thing is just growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And sure enough, his instincts were right. He found a way to take himself out there in the prison cell. So they do not have that particular witness either. And as soon as they get a hold of someone, they're gone, just like the mystery man, Yusef Khalid, in the last show and in the shows before, where he was sort of gallivanting about, and we were trying to get a hold of him. And then as soon as they did, well, I guess no one actually caught him, but he caught himself. Anyway, that was very tragic, the last show. So, all right, so we're going to break it down here tonight. I want to hear your most interesting thoughts of this episode. Andrea Fasano, not with us this evening. A shout out to her, as she is working this evening, unable to make it, but on another show, that is. Okay, so I don't trust it. I don't trust it is where Peter's coming from. He goes to the crime scene where Emma's been held. They're looking around. Like I say, I'm not completely convinced of it, but a man had approached her the night that she had separated from Peter, apparently. And at that point, she starts buying what he has for sale. It's a typical, hey, I've got some way for you to make a quick buck, and she falls for it. This is not something a young girl who's a student in Israel walking off by herself in the middle of the night is necessarily going to want to fall for. And again, I'm not believing that that's exactly how that went, because she has too much information in that journal. I believe she's got so many secrets in there that there's no possible way she's working by herself and reappearing after all of this. But that's my take, and like I say, I want to hear yours. Then she was thrown into a car and kept thinking they were going to kill her, is what she said. And the more that she thought that, then the more she thought, well, I need to get out of here. and I put in a car. I think that is accurate, but if I'm not, let me know, because all I saw was the prison cell and then my notes said car here. So there was a lot happening, a lot of clues as to where this thing is going overall, a big prophecy of the Order of Moriah. And I'm looking forward to getting into more of that when the guy appears in the VHS tape. And I'm looking forward to talking about Liat. Let's jump right into her. Now, Liat is working with Anne Heche's character, Lynn Monahan. Lynn is at her home and all of a sudden finds out that Peter did not make it to the airplane. He was being escorted, remember, out of Israel because this thing's heating up and they want him out of there. They think he's messing up things. Well, he is, but it's also for the criminal minds at work that are doing a greater work in the dig. Of course, the U.S. ambassador involved with that and even asked by the rabbi to out him. And we'll get into that more here in just a bit. But Liat, she is the woman actually played by Noah Tishby, a very famous actress in the Israel area, and Tel Aviv, that area. And so she is becoming more and more well-known here in the United States, and she did a great job of what we saw of her this evening. And she said that, let's see, there was the woman's picture, right. Remember the woman? Okay, there was a key that was found behind the picture, and then her husband was in the psych ward. And I do remember his last name was Donaldson. Well, Liat brings a copy of the picture of that key and says, I need to deliver this to Peter Connelly. So that's why she's bringing that to Lynn to deliver. Well, actually, it's part of the investigation, rather, and Lynn takes it in her own hands, I believe, to give it to Peter. Peter already had the key, and he passed it on to Cohen. So this key was a key of a security box. Yeah, that's right. Liat, she was discovering if it was the key to the security deposit box. And in fact, that's what it was. Went to the bank, Cohen did later on in the episode, and found the VHS tape of Donaldson, also the similar last name as the son that had carved that symbol. Remember the symbol? It's a signal and a symbol, and I make these words up, and then they should be in the Webster's Dictionary, right? At least the Wikipedia. I'm just saying, you can make up words these days, and they should be words. They should be words. They really, really should be. Okay, so Detective Cohen, he had gave him... Peter gave him the key earlier on, and he said, this is going to be the key to the end of this investigation. He said, it's not going to stop here. And so the VHS tape, so I'm thinking it's maybe a dad with the son that's in the psych ward. Maybe the son found the dad. And the T sort of symbol is some way representing the Order of Moriah, and the Order of Moriah has to do with the Illuminati. And so this is all a prophecy that's coming to the forefront as the dig goes deeper and as we go deeper every week. Lots of missing parts that have been found out tonight. And Alison Sudol, a big part of this show this evening. Now, moving on, I want to get into Debbie. Debbie, obviously, she's been trying. I mean, she is on the run from the Blue Man Group, and she is trying to get out of there. She breaks a parking meter to get some quarters for yet another payphone, because remember, last week she was leaving the FBI's office, and then Josh was in the car. So you know that they're going to meet up, but apparently 10 miles out in the desert. So she and Josh, they go on a shopping spree, or rather a shoplifting spree, because they're going to pick up some much needed items to go up against their Blue Man posse. And they've got a lot of guns out there. But lo and behold, Debbie knew what to do. She strapped him full of alleged explosives, and I'm not sure if those were actually real explosives. If so, then she did a great job by herself. I mean, I wouldn't know how to put that together. Maybe she learned that in her time, in her 3 years being in the compound. But anyway, Josh comes out there. He reveals that he has an alleged bomb on him, and she's got the remote. She says, okay, give me Charlie, and I'll give you Josh. They give Charlie. She does not give up Josh. And then they go track him down anyway, just down the way after Josh says, I got to go to the bathroom. Well, they gun down Charlie. He's left there. Debbie goes nuts. She goes and hides under that tunnel. And they don't find her. So she really did break away from them. She really was on the run. But at this point, she is alone. Billingham and his team are just very violent. I mean, and one of the lines I loved by her was, put down your guns or I'll kill your high priest. I'm like, when do you get to say that? That is just crazy. So that was a cool line. You're not going to necessarily find that in the Old Testament, put down your guns or I'll kill your high priest. Anyway, that was kind of unique there. So they get away, and then they're caught later. She ends up by herself. She's still on the run. She's been on the run for I don't know how many episodes now. But Josh is rescued from behind the seat by Faye. Faye was the one that Debbie had beat her up pretty good in that little cafe where she thought, we didn't know what was going to happen there. Anyway, they hear the scanner, and that was how Debbie was left in the desert because they did hear the police were going to be coming. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hightailed it out of there. They kind of got what they needed. They're kind of done with her, and her reputation somewhat tarnished with her prior drug use and abuse, and so they figure, nobody's going to believe her anyway. So she is not that much of a threat because Charlie's out, and he was the only soul apparently coming after her in all of creation. So we'll see what can happen with that. But she is on the loose and she is running for dear life. Now, Emma, back to Peter and Emma, because that's been the heart of episode 7 tonight. Do not trust anyone. As their relationship unfolds, Peter reveals, hey, I've had a daughter and she had red hair and she's not here anymore. And this gave Emma a chance to grieve with him and share that she was sorry about his loss. And then she dyed her hair back and she starts diverging clues about Margrove, talking about him being uncomfortable rather with her diverging the clues. And then Lynn gets a text message from Peter to meet at the park. Okay, so he wasn't going to send it at first in their talk, but then he decides to send it. So he's going to meet Lynn at the park, but he has somebody chasing him, about to run him over. So then another SUV shows up and rescues him. It looked like the Essene, but I couldn't get a good look of him, if that was the Essene that actually rescued him and dropped him back off at Detective Cohen's. But again, that was pretty fascinating. Foot chase. Peter Connelly doing a lot of running around the Jerusalem area. It looks like it may have been shot there as well. And I just love, again, the dig and the archaeological findings because you can tell a lot of this was shot over there, and it kind of brings that unease with the entire production as well. Incredible director of photography. The creators, Tim Kring, Gideon Raff, you can totally see their brilliance in this creative production as well. So moving on, Goen goes back and he is reviewing the VHS tape. The VHS tape, does anybody remember those, what those look like or how those run? Well, it was good because there were some tracking problems as this man, Donaldson, he tried John Donaldson this time, not Gregory, Gregory was the one found again in the psych ward. He had carved that symbol into his chest. Well, now I think it looks like his dad or some kind of relative on this VHS tape. Perhaps that's what sent the young man into the psych ward, unless he had some findings of his own too. But Goen finds this VHS tape, he's reviewing it, and he's looking at the dates because this man, this archaeologist, he's an archaeologist. He's finding out different facts. He says this is the most significant archaeological find perhaps of the 20th century, because remember that tape, that video was taken on February 15th of 1989. So that's not current day, and that's taking us back in the day. And it looked like it was from his apartment that he was finding out some of what the details meant. And tell me what your thoughts are about what was revealed in this VHS tape, because I want to hear your perspective. Mine was simply that he talks about the Order of Moriah and essentially confirms that there is this prophecy. There is a bigger reason for the dig, for the archaeologist, for somebody that's on the inside. They don't know who. Of course, we know it's the U.S. ambassador. And then we don't know who else is exactly linked to this. In other words, if Emma is in there somewhere, what her position is. And as far as we know, that this guy, he looked honest, because at the end he gets taken out, because on the very third time that he says, hey, if you're watching this, he says, I'm dead. And then apparently somebody did take him out. So that was right before, and then there was a second one just before that, June 6th, 89. So there was 3 appearances that he made. And again, I didn't really get a lot out of that, except for the fact that it's showing a prophetic movement, because this was many years ago, more than 15 years ago that this VHS tape was taken, which is also dating us as to, there's going to be different contraptions, if you will. There's going to be the tapeless machines used now, or CDs, or as technology has progressed over the years. But this was VHS, obviously, timing the prophecy that he found out some things. His son, if that's his son, maybe he grew up and didn't really know a lot about the archaeological digs until recently. Because remember, it was only 6 months ago that he was put in the psych ward. And that's when he went crazy, was finding out a lot of different information. So the cults are kind of coming together in terms of information. No one's made a cross-section, if you will, but there's similar fact-finding going on, and everything is coming to the forefront. So the rabbi and the archaeologist, they got into it, okay, toward the end of the show, too. But before we talk about that, let me just see. The rabbi tells the ambassador at the beginning of the show, she will find Peter and kill him. So this rabbi, he's taking out people right and left, because I think as he gets closer, he's got all the jewels, all the stones, rather, for the breastplate. And as he gets closer, he doesn't want anybody messing with what he's about to do. And he tells her, you better eliminate Peter. He knows that Peter is a threat. She then begins chewing out Lynn shortly after that, saying, you better take care of this, because basically she's now in the sling, and she's trying to implement that hierarchy, because the ambassador doesn't want to have to do the dirty work, but she knows it's out of control, and she gives her 3 hours. Well, Lynn, she kind of looked up at that moment. I think at that moment she's thinking, she's beginning, that was sort of a seed of suspicion, is how I would put that. And so the rabbi is notified by the archaeologist that some of the diggers are trying to find the pillars. So the diggers are underneath, they're trying to find the pillars, and perhaps he knows that is a step closer to being able to use this breastplate, and it's coming down to this. So the Rabbi Lev will bring the breastplate, and then the archaeologist, he takes a note. He says, it's amazing how many people have died trying to do what we're doing. Almost like too much ego there as he's going in. He could be blindsided by his own ego, is what I'm getting out of that line. But Peter's wife doesn't know that he's missing. Let me jump into that. We'll leave Rabbi on hold for a second. Peter's wife doesn't know he's missing until Lynn calls him. So Lynn's on the hunt for Peter, and she says, she calls the wife. And then the wife says, well, aren't you the one sleeping with him? So she just confronts Anne Heche's character and says, yeah, I know the situation, basically, this grief-stricken mother and this awkward situation. So that pretty much ends that phone call. But then the wife is able to get in touch with Peter. I'm assuming they have some kind of special code on the cell phone, call me right away, whatever the code might be. And she gets in touch with Peter. He responds right away. And they have some dialogue about about Lynn, and she says, you know what, just go to Lynn because she's going to take care of you. She knows there's some trust there, at least on a certain level, which that was revealing. Us women can be pretty smart when we want to be. I'm going to take a pause on that one. I'll say that again. Us women can be pretty smart when we want to be. When we don't let our emotions get in the way, and she's in that position of authority, and it's just very smart where that's going. So Peter is hanging out. He's hiding at Detective Cohen's home with Emma Wilson, and then he kind of has some banter there with Detective Cohen about Udi. Udi is the man that he's involved with, and that was a cool, non-judgmental scene that went on between the two of them. I liked those nuances there, but Peter Connelly is looking at the architecture work. And apparently he works with the water system in some way. And then Peter says it's all about the water. And he remembers that's what Emma had said, I believe, in the cave. That takes us back even to the first episode where they went on that swim in the cave. And they were having some dialogue about the mystery and the intrigue. And sure enough, you know, even as I remember, he was being lured into there. See, I didn't trust it from the get-go. And it looks like she was luring him into there because she knew that was her only way out of a bad situation. So I'm not completely putting all the pieces together, but I've at least got that much put together. Let me know if you have more put together between Emma and Peter and how he got lured in there in the first place. Was she then already caught by those people? Or was she caught right after that fact? Well, I guess it would have been right after that fact. So anyway, there's more to that. There is definitely more, deeper into this dig. And then the rabbi and archaeologist at the end. Okay, here's the amazing, we've been waiting for this all season. Finally on show 7 tonight, we get to see some of the Indiana Jones creativity with the artifacts and the breastplate and all the lives that have been sacrificed for this breastplate to come together. And essentially, they put that onto this fancy part inside where there's the pillars and the dig, and they meet together, and they're already kind of splitting. They're like, okay, you get this half, I get that half, and they're already kind of counting their chips before they have them, if you will, which is never smart to do. You got to keep the poker face till the very end. Not that I play poker, but I know something about it. Okay, and so we start seeing that the ground is shifting, and the dig is really official now. They have the breastplate, it's going into the ground, and the camera begins to pan up toward the ceiling inside the cave, and then they go outside, and it's the capital, it's Jerusalem, but there's Arabic people that are praying inside, and I don't know exactly what that means, but we will find out, I'm sure, next week. You know, and as far as, well, I mean, that's huge. I mean, I thought that was creatively done, and exciting to see some of the Indiana Jones. It wasn't the Ark of the Covenant, but it's this breastplate, and apparently it's going to have some kind of power that they had revealed before, where someone can communicate with God somehow through this breastplate. And again, I don't know what God they're talking about exactly, because we know that this is not a God of peace. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. Anyway, so yeah, I want to get into tweeters. Thank you. Do you like how I merged two words? Where is Andrea when I need her? She would so love it. So we've got Twitter and we've got tweets, and I don't know. I wasn't saying anybody's a twit. Okay, let's just get that straight right now. So I'm going to go into these amazing tweets, and I did write them down because I wanted to read them off to you. We've got Dusty Rain at Dusty Rain, and he says, Jason was one of his favorite actors long before Harry Potter, but Dusty is confused by the boy and the teen plots. Okay, this was a little while back, but I did want to give a shout out to Dusty and say thank you for your tweets there. And then T Shaltiel. Okay, if I'm saying that correctly, and I hope so. She says, in my opinion, the symbol is in the shape of the temple, Beit Hamakdash. Okay, and she gives a hashtag to dig deeper, of course. Now, I looked at least a dozen images, and the only discrepancy I can find between our viewer who gave this tweet is that the Beit Hamakdash does not seem to appear to me in the shape of a T. And so that's the difference. But I can totally see how it could be part of that, or they totally took from that to create this make-believe architecture for the show. So still on the trail with that. At Blondie, she says that she favorited a tweet that I was mentioned in and says, good catch. And then Denise Kennedy also says, good catch. So I appreciate that affirmation. Blondini says only the facial pics. She was not buying it about Emma Wilson not being alive, because here's where the tips were. There were no autopsy that was discussed by the detectives. So that was great. Of course, that was left out. There was no burial. And in other words, Connelly never went out to her burial. So that was another good clue there. But of course, they were mixed up in other action with the mystery man and everything. And then she never actually was just having that. And so I liked looking back on those tips now that we know that Emma is very alive and very well and back into this entire story. So that's good to see. Golan, let's see. She said, Denise Kennedy says, Golan does not say goodbye to Peter. He still expects him to tutor Giddy in math. So we're still holding out that Peter's going to tutor him in math. That's good. And she did tweet this a little while back as well, but I wanted to make sure and include her in tonight's show. And also at Blondini and at Denise Kennedy, they both think that Emma and Peter's daughter were twins at birth. So we had discussed that a little bit last show. And I thought that was, again, I wanted to attribute it to them because that was a fascinating take to see if also there was any real blood relation between Emma Wilson and Peter's daughter, if it's all just kind of a fantasy, or is Peter's daughter really going to also come back? Is she a part of this entire prophecy? Remember, Peter is almost a man of the cloth, 3 days shy from seminary. So he's got some Bible knowledge there, that he's got some instincts on a level that people might not have that go into the FBI. He's following more of spiritual insight as well when he's uncovering some of the order of Moriah there. And however, I love the line where he says, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And who do you trust? That's the name of this episode. Trust no one. Actually, trust no one. And I think that really worked well for tonight. And I guess that's pretty much going to do it. I do want to make a prediction, though, for next week. And my prediction.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yep. This gets me in the mood. Thank you very much. All right. So, Udi, the guy that's with Detective Cohen, I believe, is going to be a key person to help them get into the waterways to try and head off the immersion of the breastplate. And I am also predicting that Andrea is going to be back with us next Thursday night, same time, same place. And before I leave tonight, there is a nutritionist that's helping me right now to be able to be here. She's incredible. Pamela Flores, thank you so much. You're a registered nurse, and she is a certified health coach, and she's got all the credentials to help me be able to function in a more healthy way. And if you're in production, let me just say, take time to eat healthy, because if you don't, then there's not going to be any shows. There won't be any hosts. Okay, you got to eat healthy first. That's my little 2 cents before I leave tonight. Pamela Flores, and you can nourishingbodyandsoul.org. That's where you can reach her, nourishingbodyandsoul.org. Shout out to you, and thank you so much. And I can't wait to go grocery shopping. I'm even going to try that the live podcasting app. I'm going to try it with her next week. So if you're around Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to attempt to actually buy 1 week of groceries. Anyway, I'm Mindy Thomas. Thank you for joining me here for Dig tonight. I'll see you next week. Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.